I was behind on my SCAT payments. Used that $8,000 loan to get a down payment on this truck. The payment is around $800 to $900, a little bit higher than the SCAT, but I know I can do it.
I just got done filming a YouTube video and then the perfect reel showed up in my feed this morning. For the sake of this creator, I hope this reel is fake. I hope this is some kind of rage bait, but I don't think it is, so let's get into it.
I was behind on my SCAT payments. Got approved for that $8,000 loan. Used that $8,000 loan to get a down payment on this truck.
Oh, I don't know how you get approved for a loan when you're already behind on a car payment. It just hurts. We're using debt to get approved for more debt.
Let me explain. As you can see, I got the TRD Sport. It's 4x4. You know, all the bells and whistles. It doesn't have the big screen like the Limited. It's that new aggressive look. And I'm really in love with it. Y'all remember I got approved for the 8Gs, but instead of using those 8Gs to catch up on the payments, I used that down payment as this and traded the SCAT, and I just rolled over everything onto this Tacoma.
So when he says he rolled over everything in the Tacoma, between being behind on his payments, whatever kind of credit trouble he was in, he rolled over into the Tacoma. That might mean he rolled over negative equity into the Tacoma. He owed more on the Charger than what it was actually worth. Instead of trying to navigate that responsibly and somehow making up the difference, some kind of loan structure where they allowed him to roll negative equity into the next vehicle. If between his payments and the vehicle's actual value he's behind $5,000 and then bought a $45,000 pickup on a vehicle that rolled off the lot for $45,000 and immediately drops in value because it's no longer new, he also may already owe $50,000 on that vehicle.
So the interior is a lot better than Dodge. I mean, that's not hard to do. We got the 4x4 TRD edition. You know what it is. The payment is around $800 to $900, a little bit higher than the SCAT.
Two things here. He's focused on the payment. The payment's not a good measure of what kind of deal you got on the vehicle. The payment doesn't tell you the interest rate, the total price of the vehicle. It doesn't tell you the loan length. He fell behind on the Dodge Charger at $500 or $550 a month, and now he's paying $800 or $900 a month. If you're falling behind on a payment, this is why I think this video is fake and rage bait of some kind, because I can't imagine a dealership looking at you falling behind on $500 payments and then saying, we'll approve you for $900. I don't know if he has co-signers,
but I know I can do it. Around here, we don't get pre-owned cars. This is brand new, has about like 14, 15 miles on it.
As I'm editing this video, I find myself trying to trim it back more and more because I don't want to be mean. It's possible that no one ever taught this guy about finances, or it's possible that the video is fake. I can't help but mention that as soon as you drive a new vehicle off the lot, it's no longer a new vehicle, it's a used vehicle.
So we'll see how this one goes. If I fall behind on this one, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Let me know what y'all think. Shout out to the people at Toyota. They saw the video and they said, we can get you out of the SCAT, help you out with the repo.
One of the misconceptions in this video, Toyota messaged him and said they could help him out. They're not helping you out. It's kind of scummy that dealerships would even think that this is a good idea, would think that this is an honorable practice to take people who are behind on payments and finance them into an even more expensive loan situation. I can't see how that's helping him. Really, the only way Toyota could help him is offer to employ him on the weekends so that he can make some extra cash and get out of this hole. Dismal. That's a dismal outlook. I did a little more research. It looks like all the creators' videos tag Brownsville, Texas as location. So I pulled that up on realtor.com and looked for rentals. It appears that Brownsville is actually a lower cost of living than many places. He could easily be paying rent at lower than what his car payment is. Don't go on this guy's page and hate on him. I hope this is fake, but it's done very well for him. It's gone viral. You know, he's not gonna actually make any money off of this content though, which is a sad thing. Even though some of his reels are now in the hundreds of thousands of views, Instagram doesn't really value the work of their creators. Unfortunate for him that this virality is actually not gonna help him out either. Let's look at an example that I made. I tried to make this comparison as fair as possible, always picking double cab, 5-foot beds, 4-wheel drives. Edmunds won't let me pick the trim on 2014s and 2009s, so I'm assuming that these are SR5 equivalents and then SR5, SR5. What I want you to notice is that it's modest improvements in MPG, modest improvements in horsepower and torque, but the tow capacity stays the same. Here are our categories: price, the average cost of the 10 cheapest 4-wheel drive Tacomas in my area, and if I can't get enough of them, it's just nationally the 10 cheapest 4-wheel drive Tacomas. Payment, we are using a 5-year loan, 20% down, using interest rates from US News and World Report. If you're curious, interest rates here are 6.99, and I use 7.24 for each of the used vehicles. Insurance, total, value at payoff, that's inflation and depreciation adjusted, and total money loss is the total amount you paid minus what the vehicle is worth. And I did inflation adjust this. When you pay for something now and you finance it and you have to pay insurance on it monthly, if you're trying to get your cash back out of it 5 years down the road, you have spent a ton of money on this thing, all while it loses value and you lose your money to interest and insurance. Older, cheaper vehicles are cheaper to insure. The interest rates are slightly higher, but the total sticker price is so much lower that you end up losing much less money. This is crazy, guys. Look, if you're getting a 2024 Tacoma, not only are you paying $700 a month on the vehicle, you're paying maybe $200 a month for insurance. You're going to end up paying 61,000 vehicles for a sticker price of $43,000. And by the time you pay it off, it would have been like you had $23,000 in the year 2024. That's a $20,000 difference, losing almost $40,000 across 5 years. Imagine what you could do if you could recoup, 3/4 of that by buying a much cheaper used vehicle at a much higher down payment or even cash. These numbers are horrendous, and it speaks to why Americans have a real problem with their finances when they're financing vehicles at these rates for this long with so little down. Another way to look at this is just the daily money you are losing across 5 years on each of these vehicles under those financing terms. Let's look at something that would be a little more reasonable. Let's pick the 2014 Tacoma. It's only a 10-year-old vehicle. We're going to get it for the same price as we got it earlier. We're just going to go into 7% interest, 3-year loan, put 66% down. We're only going to pay $150 a month insurance. We're going to end up paying a total of $29,000 on a $22,000 vehicle. It's going to be worth $14,000 in 2024 dollars 3 years later when we pay it off in 2027. Our total money loss is now finally significantly below the sticker price of the vehicle at $14,592. Mostly, we're only losing money to inflation and depreciation of the vehicle, which are your typical costs of the vehicle. We're not paying a ton in interest. I think we're only losing about $1,000 in interest. Once you get below $10,000 on something like a Toyota pickup that holds value really well, you're hardly losing money to depreciation or inflation. It starts really keeping up with it. And that's about the rock bottom of the market, is like $10,000 on a clean pickup. But if you're a normal person and you're not going to be driving these older vehicles that are 20 or 30 years old, here's what you can shoot for. A 10-year-old vehicle where you put most of the vehicle down in cash, you get a shorter loan, you get a decent interest rate, you get decent insurance, and now your fixed costs are much lower. Vehicles are subject to losing their value in 4 different ways. Interest. Financing requires interest. Inflation. In the United States, every year, your money loses about 3 to 4% of its value. Depreciation. So not only does the cash value of a vehicle lose value over time, but also they depreciate. Over time, it's worth less and less, and that is different from inflation. Different vehicles depreciate faster. The Tacoma that this man bought is actually, a pretty good vehicle in terms of how well it holds its value. Toyota as a brand tends to hold value pretty well. Most of the depreciation of that vehicle is going to happen in the first 5 to 10 years of it. That's where it'll really start to cut its value down into a half or maybe even only 1/3 of what the vehicle's originally worth. Vehicles have fixed costs associated with them, especially things like insurance. If you drive a vehicle in the United States, it has to be insured. You have fixed costs that you're sinking into the ownership of this vehicle every month. So insurance and maintenance are the main ones. When it comes to overland rigs, we're especially susceptible to this because we're more likely to add modifications to the vehicle, and we're more likely to beat on the vehicle in such a way that it requires even more maintenance, and we're adding mods to it, and mods aren't a dollar per dollar value. If you add $500 worth of sliders or tires or front bumpers to your vehicle, you're not going to get an extra $500 when you sell it. Maintenance is the same thing. It's expected that you maintain your vehicle and you sell it in running condition. So we don't get money back for maintaining our vehicle. That is a completely sunk cost that will not increase the value of our vehicle. At bare minimum, it'll just maintain it along normal depreciation. Dealerships are predatory and they will get you to focus on the monthly payment, but the monthly payment cannot possibly tell you the health of your loan situation. Things like interest rate and loan term are much more important to understand because that actually dictates how much you'll be paying, as well as vehicle price and vehicle depreciation. Honestly, the monthly payment is the last thing you need to be concerned about when you're financing a vehicle. If you just focus on the monthly payment, dealerships will extend your loan terms, they'll increase or manipulate your interest, for your down payment. We want to get as close to dollar for dollar value on our vehicle, and that means buying vehicles that don't depreciate under good financing terms or buying them cash and making sure they're as cheap to insure as possible. It's not even necessarily about the total price of the vehicle. Buying a good used car in the $30,000 or $40,000 that holds value well is a way better deal than overpaying for a luxury vehicle that might be $25,000 or $30,000 but continue to lose value at an insane rate. The other thing that we've already briefly mentioned is negative equity. If you decide to do a low down payment on long financing terms, you may find yourself upside down. Basically, you will end up owing more on your loan than what you could currently sell the vehicle for. Unless you can save up the cash to make up that difference, and most people can't, most people in America cannot afford a $1,000 emergency at any given time, you stand no chance to ever get out of that, and you roll that negative equity into the next loan you take, because most people on 7-year loans won't even have the vehicle for all 7 years. Don't fall prey for these long loan terms that lower your monthly payment, because financially they're a bad deal. The longer your loan terms get and the more extreme your interest rates, the more it's like you're paying $1 towards your loan only to get 50 cents or 25 or 10 cents back in actual value in the vehicle. Cars are basically the most expensive thing that most people buy and have access to that loses value every single day. Taking out debt to buy something that's going to constantly decrease in value is a terrible way to go. As you pay more and more, the vehicle becomes worth less and less, and your money is just sunk and stuck, and you'll never see it back because you cannot sell that vehicle for what your loan says the value of the vehicle was at purchase price. Looking at this whiteboard that I created, just a couple things. My methodology is in the comments. You can go look at that if you want. It's not perfect. I expect people to comment on that and to have problems with it. Like, I have to make assumptions all along the way. Any of these numbers could probably move by 10 to 15%. What this whiteboard does is it very well explains the trends that occur when we finance vehicles and what happens when we put small amounts of money down. I tried to be generous in certain spots and then a little bit harsher on certain spots, and hopefully that kind of balances out. Assuming 20% is generous, also adding inflation to the value of the vehicle at the end of your loan might look a little weird to some of you. I think it's fair. It just shows like this is really how much money you're losing by owning a vehicle. So that total money lost on the bottom of the whiteboard, that is talking about all the money that you're losing to insurance, all the money that you're losing to interest, all the money that you're losing to inflation, and all the money that you're using to depreciation. It's by no means exact down to the dollar. These are estimates and general trends for these kinds of vehicles. Of course, if you buy under different loan terms than the one I stated, of course, if inflation fluctuates in the next 4 to 5 years, you're gonna see actual difference in the realized losses that you take owning these kinds of vehicles. But these are great estimates and great ways to explain and show and demonstrate just how much money you're throwing away when you enter these kind of financing terms. I choose to include insurance in this demonstration because it does change depending on how expensive your vehicle is, and I think I was generous on the interest rates. If your credit is bad, if you're buying a risky used car, you will see that interest rate go through the roof above 10%. It can go up into the 20s. It might even be like having a credit card at that point. Holding at 7.24% on some of these used vehicles was pretty generous in my opinion. You'd need pretty good credit and you might need a higher down payment in order to get those kind of financing terms.